Have you ever sat in a quiet room and felt that strange mix of peace and emptiness? Maybe you reach for your phone. Maybe you turn on the TV, just so it wouldn't feel so silent. But what if that silence isn't a void? What if it's the doorway to something deeper? Today, let's slow down together and talk about something most of us avoid, being alone. Don't worry, this isn't going to be heavy or preachy. Just you and me, taking a small walk through the stillness we usually run away from. You see, in a world that never stops talking, being alone can sound almost scary. We're told to stay busy, stay connected, stay surrounded. But somewhere along the way, we forget how to sit quietly with ourselves. The truth is, solitude isn't loneliness. It's space, a gentle space, where your own voice becomes clear again. When I first started spending more time alone, it wasn't easy. I remember one Sunday morning, I made coffee and sat by the window. No music, no phone, just the sound of the street outside and my own thoughts, loud and messy. At first, it felt uncomfortable, like I was missing something. But then I started to notice small things. The sunlight touching the wall, the way my breathing slowed down. It was the first time in a long while that I felt present. And maybe that's what solitude really gives us, a way back home to ourselves. Buddhist teachings say, peace comes within, do not seek it without. But let's be honest, that's easier said than done. We're used to finding joy in people, in noise, in plans. Yet the more we chase happiness in others, the further we drift from that quiet center inside us. And maybe, just maybe, the reason life feels so heavy sometimes is because we've forgotten how to simply be with ourselves. It's okay to need people. It's okay to enjoy company. But it's also okay, and actually beautiful, to choose yourself sometimes. To say, no, I'll stay in tonight. To eat alone, walk alone, think alone. Because that's how you meet the truest version of yourself. The one that doesn't have to perform or impress anyone. We often hear people say, it's better to be alone than in bad company. I used to think that was just something lonely people said to feel better. But now I know it's true. Some company drains you, while solitude fills you. When you step away from the wrong energy, you start to see what peace actually feels like. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, steady, like the sound of your own heartbeat when everything else goes silent. Sometimes solitude feels like medicine. It clears the fog, helps you remember what matters. And it doesn't mean you have to isolate yourself from the world. It just means you build a small sanctuary inside, a place you can return to any time. Maybe it's your morning coffee spot. Maybe it's a walk at sunset or just a few deep breaths before bed. Those small moments of aloneness are how we reconnect with life itself. I want to tell you something personal. There was a time when I was always surrounded by people, always saying yes, always showing up, but deep down I felt exhausted. One day I stopped. I canceled plans. I took my car and drove with no destination, just open road, soft music, and the sound of wind. That day I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. For the first time, I wasn't trying to keep up with anyone. I was enough. Maybe that's the secret. To realize that you are enough, even in silence. When you stop chasing connection, you start feeling connection, not through noise, but through awareness. You realize you don't need the world to fill you. You already carry everything you need inside. And I know it's not easy. Some nights will feel empty. You'll miss voices, laughter, the feeling of being seen. But even that longing can be a teacher. It's your soul reminding you what kind of connection truly nourishes you, not constant contact, but genuine closeness. So maybe tonight, instead of reaching for your phone, try something different. Sit with the silence. Light a candle. Listen to your breathing. Ask yourself gently, what do I need right now? You might be surprised because the answer is often simple. Nothing. Just this. If this message speaks to your heart, take a second to subscribe to this channel. Not because I want numbers, but because somewhere maybe you need small reminders like this. That peace is not far away. It's already here, waiting inside your quiet moments. So let's walk this path together, slowly, softly, honestly. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to be anyone. Just stay. Just breathe. Just be. And next time you feel alone, remember, you're not broken, you're blooming. Solitude isn't the absence of love. It's the space where love finally finds you. Sometimes the hardest person to spend time with is yourself. When the world quiets down and there's no one left to talk to, you start hearing the voice that's always been there, your own. At first it can be loud, confusing, even a little harsh. But if you stay, if you breathe through it, something gentle begins to appear underneath all that noise. When I began practicing solitude more seriously, I thought I was doing it wrong. I'd sit on the couch with tea in my hands, and instead of peace, I felt a kind of restlessness. Thoughts raced. Things I should have said, things I hadn't done, mistakes I replayed again and again. But the longer I sat, the more I realized that all those thoughts were just dust floating in sunlight. They passed if I didn't chase them. Maybe that's what knowing yourself really means. Not fixing, not judging, just noticing. In the original talk, it says that spending time alone helps you understand who you truly are. That's true, but I'd add this. Solitude doesn't give you a new version of yourself. It simply removes the noise so you can see what's already there. We spend so much time trying to be liked, to fit in, to meet expectations, that we forget what we even enjoy. When you're alone, there's no one to impress. You start asking quieter questions like, do I even like the things I'm chasing? And what really makes me feel alive? It's okay if the answers don't come right away. They show up slowly, like dawn creeping through a window. Maybe you'll discover that what you actually love isn't glamorous. Maybe it's baking bread, walking barefoot in the yard, or writing words no one will ever read. And that's beautiful because it's yours. It doesn't need applause. A friend of mine once told me she started taking herself out to dinner every Friday. At first, she felt awkward, people staring, couples laughing at other tables. But after a few weeks, she stopped caring. She said, I realize I like my own company. I laugh at my own jokes. I think about things I never had time to think about. That's what solitude can give you, a friendship with yourself. And maybe that's why the fear of being alone is so common. We don't actually fear silence. We fear what we might hear inside it. But that's where the healing is. When you sit long enough with your fears, you start to see that they're smaller than they seemed. They lose their sharp edges. Being alone teaches you that you're not as fragile as you think. You begin to trust yourself again. If tonight feels too quiet, don't rush to fill it. Let the quiet hold you for a while. Watch your thoughts pass like clouds. Notice how, underneath it all, there's a small sense of stillness, steady calm, waiting for you to come home. That's not loneliness. That's peace introducing itself. And hey, if these words make you pause for a second, that's a good sign. It means something inside you is listening. So if you'd like to keep walking on this gentle path with me, hit subscribe and stay connected. We'll keep exploring the little corners of life that often get lost in the noise. Because sometimes All we need is another voice telling us what to do, but a quiet reminder that it's okay to just be. You know, it's funny how we're surrounded by people yet still feel alone sometimes. Crowded rooms, endless messages, full calendars, but deep down there's this quiet ache. It's not that we don't have anyone. It's that we've forgotten how to be with ourselves. And that's okay. We all get there at some point. Buddhism says that loneliness isn't something to run from. It's something to understand. But let's be honest. Being alone can feel scary. The silence starts to echo, memories come up, and suddenly you want to turn on a podcast just to drown it out. But if you stay just a little longer in that silence, something shifts. You start to notice that the fear isn't about being alone. It's about not knowing who you are when no one's watching. I remember one winter night years ago. Everyone else was out, family, friends, and I was home alone. I sat on the couch, the world outside covered in snow. It was so quiet I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat. For a second, that silence felt heavy. But then I realized nothing bad was happening. The world was still turning. I was still breathing. The loneliness was just space. Empty, yes, but open. Safe. The truth is, loneliness can be an incredible teacher. It strips away all the noise, all the expectations, all the masks we wear. It asks you gently, who are you when there's no one to impress? And at first, that question hurts. But slowly it frees you, because once you learn that you're enough, just as you are, you stop needing constant reassurance from others. You begin to stand on your own 2 feet, softer but stronger. Maybe you've been through this too. Those nights when the phone doesn't ring, when everyone else seems busy and you start wondering if you matter. I've been there. But here's what I've learned. Those nights are when your soul whispers the loudest. They're not punishment. They're invitations to rebuild trust with yourself, to find warmth inside instead of searching for it everywhere else. Sometimes, when you finally stop running from loneliness, it transforms into peace. You begin to enjoy your own company. You start doing little things for yourself. Cooking your favorite meal, taking slow walks, listening to music that feels like home. And one day, you'll realize you haven't felt lonely in a while. You've just been alone and content. That's when the shift happens. You stop chasing people who don't see your worth. You stop trying to fill every quiet space with conversation. You start protecting your peace like something sacred. Because now you know solitude isn't a void. It's your own garden. And if you care for it, it blooms beautifully. So next time the silence feels too heavy, you breathe. Let it stay. Maybe light a candle, play soft music, or just sit by the window and watch the night sky. Let that stillness remind you that you're safe. You're complete. You're not waiting to be whole. You already are. And if these words make you feel even a little lighter, I'd love for you to subscribe and stay with me on this journey. Because here, we don't run from loneliness. We learn from it. We grow with it. And together we find peace, one quiet evening at a time. There comes a point in life when you stop asking why you're alone and start asking what this aloneness is trying to show you. At first, it feels strange. The house is quiet. The phone's not buzzing, and your mind keeps looking for noise to fill the space. But slowly you begin to realize maybe this isn't loneliness. Maybe this is your soul finally getting a chance to breathe. When you let yourself sit in that quiet for long enough, you start discovering pieces of yourself you didn't even know were missing. There's a softness that appears, a curiosity, a kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone else. Solitude becomes less of a punishment and more like an old friend who sits beside you and says, "You're safe here. You don't have to perform today. The original teaching said solitude is a sacred space for self-discovery. I believe that's deeply true. Without all the noise of other people's opinions, you begin to hear your own heart again. You start remembering what makes you you, what you actually enjoy, what you truly value. Maybe you rediscover your love for gardening, painting, or simply walking in the park at sunset. You realize life isn't something to rush through. It's something to feel. A few years ago, I went on a small retreat by myself. No internet, no TV, no schedule. Just mornings filled with the sound of birds and evenings with my thoughts. The first 2 days were hard. I kept reaching for my phone out of habit. But then something shifted. I started writing again, cooking slow meals, noticing the rhythm of my own breathing. I wasn't trying to escape the world anymore. I was learning how to come home to myself. That quiet weekend ended up teaching me more about who I am than years of trying to please everyone ever did. You see, the world keeps telling us to stay busy, to measure our worth by productivity. But solitude reminds us that we're not machines, we're human. We need stillness to remember what we're here for. When you sit alone long enough, clarity comes naturally. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You stop comparing your life to someone else's. You find peace in the simple truth that this moment, right here, is enough. And maybe that's the gift of solitude. It teaches you how to enjoy your own company without needing distractions. It's in those quiet moments that you rebuild your strength, heal your heart, and rediscover your joy. You start making choices that align with who you really are, not who the world wants you to be. If you ever felt like you're drifting, like you've lost your sense of direction, try giving yourself a day or even just an hour with no noise, no agenda. Let life slow down. Make a cup of tea, look out the window, and let your thoughts settle. You might be surprised at what rises to the surface when the mind finally stops running. Solitude isn't emptiness. It's clarity. It's the moment when you realize you don't have to keep proving your worth. You already are enough. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to rest. If this message feels close to your heart, I'd love for you to like, share, or subscribe. Not for numbers, but because I believe these reminders matter. Somewhere out there, someone else is struggling with the same quiet, and maybe your share helps them see that being alone isn't the end. It's a beginning. So tonight, when the world goes quiet, don't be afraid of the silence. Sit with it. Let it teach you. Because sometimes the most peaceful conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have with your own heart. There's a quiet kind of power that grows in you when you stop waiting for someone else to save you. It doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, like sunlight returning after a long winter. You begin to realize that maybe, just maybe, you've had everything you needed all along. When I first heard the Buddhist idea of self-reliance, I didn't fully understand it. It sounded a little cold, like being alone in the world, handling everything on your own. But that's not what it means. It's not about isolation. It's about learning to trust your own strength, your own wisdom. It's about knowing that your happiness and peace don't depend on anyone else showing up. They depend on how you show up for yourself. There was a time in my life when I thought I needed someone to guide me through every decision. I'd ask for opinions, approval, validation about work, about love, about everything. I thought that made me smart and careful. But the truth is I was scared to make mistakes, scared to disappoint. And when I finally started to listen to my own voice, it felt unfamiliar, almost fragile. But with each small decision I made on my own, that voice grew louder, steadier, kinder. Maybe you've been there too, depending on others to feel okay, waiting for permission to be proud of yourself. But here's what I've learned. No one else can live your life for you. No one else can truly know what's right for your heart. That wisdom, that deep knowing lives inside you. You just have to quiet the noise long enough to hear it. Buddhism teaches that when we depend too much on others for our happiness, we create suffering. Not because people are bad, but because people change. They leave, they get busy, they have their own storms. If your peace depends on them, it will always shake. But when your peace comes from within, it stays steady, even when life doesn't. There's something deeply freeing about realizing you can rely on yourself. It doesn't mean you don't need love or support. It just means you're no longer defined by it. You can walk beside people, not behind them. You can give love without fear of losing yourself. You can stand alone, not because you have to, but because you choose to. I remember an evening when I fixed something small in my house, just a leaky faucet. It seemed silly, but I'd always call someone else to handle it. That night, when the water finally stopped dripping, I felt this tiny spark of pride. Not because I saved money or did it perfectly, but because I didn't give up. That's what self-reliance feels like. Quiet, steady confidence that says, I can handle this. And maybe that's what real independence is. Not cutting yourself off from the world, but standing strong within it, knowing that even if things fall apart, you'll find your way back. You'll rebuild. You'll be okay because you trust yourself now. So, if you've been doubting your own strength lately, take this as a gentle reminder. You are capable. You've already survived every hard day you thought you couldn't. You've already carried yourself through storms no one else saw. That strength inside you, it's real. It's yours. And it's enough. Take a breath. Feel your heartbeat. That's life reminding you that you're still here, still growing, still learning how to stand tall on your own 2 feet. And if these words bring you even a small sense of calm, I'd love for you to subscribe and stay on this journey with me. We're not chasing perfection here. We're learning how to walk through life with gentleness, courage, and quiet strength. Because when you finally learn to rely on yourself, the world starts to feel a little less heavy and a lot more peaceful. You know, it takes courage to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm okay. I'm enough. It sounds simple, right? But for most of us, it's one of the hardest things we'll ever do. We live in a world that keeps whispering, do more, have more, be more. And without even noticing, we start believing that who we are isn't quite enough yet. But solitude has this gentle way of reminding us that we already have what we keep searching for. When I first started spending real time alone, I thought I'd feel lonely. I expected silence to hurt. But what I found instead was something softer, a quiet companionship with myself. I started to enjoy those slow mornings with coffee, just watching sunlight stretch across the floor. I realized I didn't always need someone else to share that moment with. Sometimes the moment itself was enough. Maybe that's what self-companionship really is, learning to sit with yourself and say, hey, I like this person. I like being here. It's not about cutting people off or becoming distant. It's about knowing that even if the room goes quiet, your heart is still full. You can keep yourself company. You can talk to your own soul. You can find laughter and peace without needing constant noise around you. Buddhism teaches that true contentment comes from within, and that's what this lesson is all about. It's not a grand revelation, not something to chase. It's more like remembering an old truth you used to know, but somehow forgot. When you begin to spend time with yourself without distraction, without judgment, you realize you don't have to fix everything. You can just be, and being is enough. I used to be my own worst critic. Every time I made a mistake, I'd replay in my head for days. Every flaw felt like proof that I wasn't good enough. But then something shifted. One night, instead of scolding myself for what I'd done wrong, I tried something different. I spoke to myself the way I'd speak to a friend, gently, kindly. "It's okay," I said out loud. "You're learning. You're trying. You're human." I can't explain how healing that moment was. It was the first time I offered myself forgiveness instead of punishment. That's what self-companionship really means, becoming your own safe place. We all crave kindness, but how often do we give it to ourselves? When you start treating yourself with compassion, something magical happens. The world starts feeling softer too. You stop demanding perfection from yourself and from others. You stop chasing love like it's something outside you, because you realize the love you've been chasing is already inside, waiting to be seen. And yes, there will be days when you forget, days when the silence feels too loud, when your reflection feels unfamiliar. That's okay. Just breathe. Sit beside yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, like a loyal friend who stays through the storm. Stay with your heart until the sky clears again. One of my favorite things to do now is take myself out. Just me. Sometimes it's a quiet walk by the lake. Sometimes it's a simple dinner. No phone, no conversation, just presence. I used to feel awkward doing that, but now I look forward to it. There's a kind of joy in realizing you can be your own companion and still feel whole. You can celebrate your own company instead of fearing it. A woman once told me something that stuck with me. When you stop being afraid of being alone, no one can control you anymore. And she was right. The moment you find peace in your own presence, you stop depending on others to define your worth. You no longer panic when someone leaves or when plans fall through. You know how to comfort yourself. You know how to begin again. The beauty of self-companionship is that it grows stronger with time. It's not something you master. It's something you nurture. Each time you choose to be kind instead of critical, patient instead of restless, you're deepening your friendship with yourself. And when that friendship is strong, life's challenges don't break you as easily. You become grounded, calm even in chaos, steady even when the world feels uncertain. Think about it. When was the last time you did something just for you? Not because it looked good, not because someone else expected it, but because your heart needed it. Maybe it's sitting in the park. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's just taking a nap in the afternoon sunlight. Those moments, small as they seem, are acts of love. They remind your soul that you matter. You see, when you know how to keep yourself company, you stop looking for people to complete you. You start looking for people who complement you, who walk beside you, not in front of or behind you. Your relationships become healthier, your boundaries become clearer, and your peace becomes harder to disturb. Because you're not trying to fill a void anymore. You've already filled it with understanding and care. And maybe that's the secret to true happiness, realizing that being alone doesn't mean being unloved. It means you've built a home within yourself, a place where you belong no matter where you go, no matter who stays or leaves. If tonight you find yourself sitting alone, don't rush to fix the silence. Light a candle. Put your hand on your heart. Feel that steady rhythm. It's your reminder that you're alive, that you're whole, that you are enough just as you are. And if these words reach you tonight, I hope you'll stay a little longer on this journey with me. Hit subscribe, not because I'm asking, but because maybe, just maybe, these quiet talks help you reconnect with the peace you already carry inside. Remember this. The relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. When you learn to love your own company, the world starts to feel like home again. So take a deep breath. Smile softly. You are not alone. You are with yourself. And that's more than enough. There's a moment in everyone's life when we start to notice how much we've been shaped by what others think. The clothes we wear, the words we use, even the dreams we chase, so much of it is borrowed. And one day, when the noise fades and the world goes quiet, you realize you don't actually know who you are without all of it. But here's the beautiful thing. That realization isn't scary. It's the start of something honest. It's the moment you begin walking back home. To you, in a world that tells you to blend in, valuing your individuality feels almost rebellious. Everywhere you turn, there's a voice saying, be more like them, do what they do, want what they want. But Buddhism and life itself reminds us that peace comes from authenticity. You are not here to copy. You're here to be. When I was younger, I used to compare everything, my pace, my path, my success, to others. And no matter how far I went, it never felt enough. Then one day, during a long drive with no music, just miles of open road, I caught myself thinking, what if I stopped trying to be someone else for just one day? That thought changed everything. For the first time, I looked at my life and saw not what was missing, but what was mine. That's the thing about solitude. It strips away comparison. When you're alone, there's no scoreboard, no noise, no competition. It's just you, raw, real, imperfect, alive. And that's where individuality blooms. When you stop measuring your worth by someone else's timeline, you begin to see that your differences aren't flaws. They're fingerprints, proof that you're one of a kind. Maybe you felt that pressure too, the need to fit into expectations that never quite fit you. Maybe you've silenced your own voice just to be accepted. But deep down, there's always that whisper, the part of you that knows who you really are. Solitude gives that whisper space to speak again. It says, you don't have to follow their map. You can draw your own. I once met a woman named Carol at a meditation retreat. She was in her 60s, soft-spoken, graceful. She told me she spent her whole life trying to please others, her parents, her husband, even her kids. One day, she said, she realized she didn't even know what her own laughter sounded like anymore. So she started small, dancing in her kitchen, painting flowers even though she wasn't an artist. For the first time, she told me, I feel alive in my own skin. That's what individuality feels like. Coming home to the sound of your own laughter. When you start valuing who you are, not who you think you should be. Something inside you softens. You stop fighting yourself. You start seeing your quirks as color, not flaws. You realize that your sensitivity, your humor, your quietness, your curiosity, all of it has a place in the world. You were never meant to fit a mold. You were meant to create your own shape. And you know what's even more beautiful? When you accept your uniqueness, you give others permission to do the same. Suddenly, your relationships change. You don't connect from fear or need. You connect from truth. You stop pretending. And people start seeing the real you, the one that was there all along. It takes courage to live this way, to stand in your truth even when it's different. But real peace doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from aligning with your own values. You can still love people, still care deeply, but you stop losing yourself in the process. You begin to walk beside others, not behind them. And maybe that's a secret to lasting joy. Not becoming more like everyone else, but becoming more like yourself. When you live in harmony with who you truly are, the world starts to feel softer, freer, more real. You begin to notice beauty in places you used to overlook. You start celebrating small things again. your morning routine, your favorite song, your quiet courage. If you're watching this and thinking, I don't even know who I am anymore, that's okay. That's exactly where the journey begins. Start by listening to the small voice inside that says, this feels right, or that doesn't feel like me. Follow it gently. It knows the way. And as you walk that path, remind yourself you are not late. You are not behind. You are becoming. Step by step, moment by moment, you're growing into the person you were always meant to be. If these words touch something in you, take a breath and hit subscribe. Not for me, but for you, as a reminder that it's okay to take time for yourself, to walk slower, to live honestly. Here, we're not chasing perfection. We're learning how to live fully, quietly, and truthfully. So tonight, sit for a while and think of all the ways you've tried to hide your light. And then promise yourself you won't do that anymore. Because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs you. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest peace you'll ever find is in being beautifully, unapologetically yourself. There's a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when solitude turns from something you fear into something you crave. It's the moment you realize that being alone doesn't mean being abandoned. It means you come home to yourself. And that's what all of this has been leading to, the journey back inward, where peace has been patiently waiting. For years, I ran from silence. I filled every hour with something: plans, music, messages, people. I told myself that staying busy meant I was living fully. But one evening, when everything went quiet and there was no one left to talk to, I realized how far I had drifted from my own heart. That silence, it wasn't empty. It was full of all the things I'd been too busy to feel. Regret, gratitude, hope, and somewhere between all of that, I heard the faintest whisper, you're still here. You're enough. Buddhism teaches that peace comes from within, and after walking this path of solitude, of stillness, of learning to listen, I finally understand what that means. You don't find peace by running towards something. You find it when you stop running altogether. When you sit still long enough to feel your heartbeat and realize this is life, right here, right now. Maybe you've spent most of your life searching for happiness, for love, for meaning. We all do. But the truth is, the more you search outside yourself, the further you drift from what's already inside. Peace was never missing. You just stop noticing it. It's the way your breath feels when you finally slow down. It's the warmth of sunlight on your skin. It's the relief that comes when you stop pretending and just let yourself be. There's this idea that happiness lives at the end of some road. After you've achieved enough, earned enough, loved enough. But what if it's been sitting quietly beside you this whole time, just waiting for you to look up? Maybe happiness isn't something to chase. Maybe it's something you remember. When you start to live that way, from within instead of from want, everything changes. You stop comparing your path to others because you realize everyone's journey is different. You stop measuring your worth by what you have or what you've done. You stop fighting to be seen because you finally see yourself. And when you see yourself, really see yourself with compassion, forgiveness, and love, you start to glow from the inside. That's the beauty of solitude. It's not about being away from the world. It's about coming back to it renewed, grounded, and whole. When you know who you are, you show up differently. You listen better. You love better. You forgive faster. You begin to live gently, not because life got easier, but because you did. And you'll still have hard days. We all do. But when those days come, you'll know how to sit quietly, close your eyes, and whisper to yourself, this moment will pass. I've been here before and I survived. I can do it again. That's the kind of peace that no one can take away from you, the kind that doesn't depend on circumstances or people or plans. It's the peace of knowing that no matter what happens, you'll always have yourself to come home to. If you've been feeling tired lately, tired of pretending, tired of running, tired of chasing, maybe it's time to stop, to breathe, to let the noise fade for a while. You don't need to fix anything right now. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to be with yourself, quietly, kindly, completely. And as you do, you'll begin to notice the small miracles again. The way the light shifts through your window, the sound of rain, the laughter of a stranger, the feeling of your own chest rising and falling. Life becomes softer when you stop trying to hold it so tightly. If these words have touched something in you, I hope you'll stay on this journey with me. Hit subscribe, share this with someone who might need a moment of stillness today, and remind them they're not alone. We're all learning how to return to ourselves, one quiet breath at a time. Before you go, take a deep breath with me. Inhale peace. Exhale everything else. Feel that? That's you. That's life. That's enough. You don't need to seek joy anymore. You are joy. You don't need to chase peace anymore. You are peace. And when you learn to be still, truly still, you'll find that the whole world fits inside that single, quiet moment. Thank you for walking with me through this journey of solitude, strength, and self-love. Wherever you are, I hope tonight you find a little corner of silence. Not because the world has stopped, but because your heart finally has. You've made it this far, through stillness, through silence, through rediscovering parts of yourself you might have forgotten. And maybe now, as we reach the end of this journey, you're beginning to see solitude in a new light. It's no longer something to escape, but something to embrace, like an old friend who's been patiently waiting for you to slow down and sit beside them. There's something sacred about realizing you don't need to rush anymore. You don't need to prove, perform, or pretend. You can just breathe. You can just be. The world may still spin in chaos. People may still come and go, but your center, that quiet space inside you, stays still. That's your home. That's where peace lives. When you start living from that place, life becomes softer. You listen more deeply. You speak more kindly. You love without needing to own or control. You forgive faster, not because others always deserve it, but because you do. You stop carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations and start walking lighter, freer. I once read a line that stayed with me. Solitude is not the absence of love, but the presence of clarity. And maybe that's what this entire path has been about. Clearing away the noise, the doubts, the shoulds and shouldn'ts, until what's left is simply you, just you, peaceful, whole, real. There was a time when I thought happiness came from being surrounded by people, by laughter, by movement. But now I see that true joy often comes in the quiet, in a morning breeze, in a cup of tea you drink alone, in knowing you're at peace with who you become. And the more you practice being at peace alone, the more peaceful you become with others. Because love doesn't start in the crowd. It starts in the quiet room of your own heart. Maybe tonight, after you finish this video, you'll close your eyes and just sit for a while. No distractions, no goals. Just you, the sound of your breath, and the gentle hum of life moving around you. And maybe in that stillness you'll hear it, that tiny steady voice inside saying, I'm proud of you. You've come a long way. You don't need to seek enlightenment in faraway temples or grand adventures. You don't need to change your life overnight. All you need is the courage to be present, to keep showing up for yourself one quiet moment at a time. That's what living with peace truly means. It's not about avoiding the noise. It's about carrying stillness inside you no matter where you go. And as this chapter ends, I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening, for staying, for choosing to explore something most people are afraid to face, the quiet within. It takes bravery to sit with yourself and not look away. It takes heart to turn loneliness into peace and peace into wisdom. If this journey has touched something in you, I invite you to stay with me a little longer. Subscribe if you haven't yet, not for the numbers, but so we can keep sharing moments like this. Each week, we'll keep exploring the art of slow living, self-love, and gentle awareness together. And before you go, I want you to remember this. You don't need to do more to be worthy. You don't need to be louder to be seen. You don't need to be loved to be whole. You already are. So tonight, let the world keep spinning. Let the noise fade. Sit in your quiet and let peace rise, not as something you find, but as something you become. Because once you learn to be at peace with yourself, you never really walk alone again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for choosing peace.